And so so the as we're going through the Orato Deo booklet, the booklet that I put together, you would have gotten the first page of that printed out, and it's a little booklet that I wrote for my mother about at least 20 years ago when I was in the monastery to help her pray and to help her understand better what contemplative prayer is. And so the first, it begins, and I'll reread the first little passage, and I'll unpack that for today. The first secret of contemplative prayer is to let all things around us disappear into utter nothingness, and then to let ourselves plunge into the presence of God, who is awaiting us in the present moment in the depths of our soul. Our contemplation takes place in this very moment in time and space. It is in the present moment that we meet our God and exchange our love for his. Nowhere else is he to be found, since for God there is no before or after, only an eternal present. Let us live then in his eternal presence in this eternal moment. In this state, we go beyond our limited selves and experience a foretaste of the eternity, a state of time which can never end. It is in tasting that we desire more, and it is thus that our love for God becomes insatiable. It is for limited goods, created beings, and things that our taste becomes quickly satisfied. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. When I say it is in tasting that we desire more, it's a taste, as the psalm says, taste and see the goodness of God. And so it is in tasting God, is experiencing God. I guess maybe I'm influenced by the French word goûter. Goûter means to taste in French, but it also has the connotation of experiencing, to taste in the sense of experience. I guess in the same way the Psalms, when the Psalms say taste and see, that's really to experience and see. It's not like we're actually eating something, but we're having the experience of what God is and who he is in our lives. So we taste and we desire more, and really our desire, our love of God becomes insatiable because we can never have enough of him. We can never receive all that he can gives us. We're always limited in our capacity of receiving because we are created beings. We're not uncreated. We're not infinite. So we are created. So we desire more. But it is satisfying to receive him and receive what he gives us. But on contrast, we contrast that with created things, and we created things that we have or receive, or even in that same analogy, if we said taste, just think about we can like something, but if we like it too much and eat it all the time, it becomes disgusting to us. Not only it becomes beyond being satisfied with a thing, but if we've eaten so much of it, it actually becomes disgusting. I remember an interesting story. A man who was a Carthusian monk for some years, he didn't continue on. He went on to be a historian and an English professor in Austria, actually. His name's James Hogg. He grew up in England, but before he entered the monastery, he had some debts to pay off. So he went to work for Cadbury's chocolate factory in England. And it's a pretty famous chocolate factory, Cadbury's. They may have had the Easter eggs. They do a lovely chocolate Easter egg with a cream filling. But anyways, he was at Cadbury's, and when he worked there, so there's all this chocolate around. So the policy was they let you eat as much chocolate as you wanted to. So you could eat all the chocolate you wanted to. And they found that after a few weeks, most people were just sick of chocolate. They had just so much chocolate that they became disgusted with it. So it wasn't really any use to limit their desire to eat it, because of course they couldn't take it out with them. It's not like they could take it out and peddle it, but the risk of them eating the chocolate became really a non-entity, because they they themselves became overly satisfied with the chocolate, and so it was no longer. So you see, with created things, with natural things like that, if we there's a certain moment where if it's just for our pleasure, we actually become disgusted with it, because really, food is for our health. We eat to be healthy. We don't eat for just pleasure. So pleasure is involved. It should be naturally involved with our health. So we should naturally desire things that are healthy. But it's often the rich things that we desire. It's those rich things that are actually too healthy for us in a certain sense. I mean, it's the rich things. A lot of the rich foods are the most desirable. The creams or ice creams or butter or fat or all that fried stuff or carbohydrates. Those are all rich foods, and that's what we desire because they have so much energy in them. But we don't burn off the energy. We don't burn off the energy. Instead of, if we're younger, if we're athletic, maybe we'll burn off that energy, and maybe we need a lot of carbs. But as we age, we're not as energetic, and so that energy is not, it's stored in fat, so we gain weight. So but that food is full of energy, and so that's why we naturally desire it. But if we just have all of that, it becomes sickening to us because we're disgusted by it. But God isn't like that. God is infinite, and so we never become disgusted. We never become satiated with God, because we desire that peace, that rest, that joy that He can give us. And so it is open-ended. It's not closed-ended. It's not something that we've become sick of because we've had too much of it. It's something that we actually desire more. And also that brings up the question of, I think there's something beautiful. It's a reflection, kind of an annex here, a reflection, but what about the simple things that we do in life? What about the simple things? Do we find God in the simple things that we're doing in life? Or do we just want to get through those simple things and get to like the prayer time? I mean, like if we're cleaning the house, if we're doing the dishes, if we're walking, if we're driving to work, or what about these things? Do we see them as related to our spiritual life and our prayer life and what we're doing? And I think if we put it in the right context, I think there's a lot to be seen. I'd like to valorize these things in our lives, because I think they need to be have their proper value. I mean, if you do things like washing the dishes or sweeping the floor, or keeping your space, your home tidy, that's really that's a respect for your environment. You are showing respect for your environment and the space that you live, and it shows that matters to you and that you matter, and that you're showing respect for yourself, and that helps you, I think, you to show respect for God and respect for others. I mean, someone who lives out of that environment, I think it's not healthy, and maybe even be a matter of pride. I think there's an element of pride of just saying that, well, nothing matters. I don't care what people think. Nothing matters. It's all just a joke. Everything's stupid. So nothing really matters. And so I don't give any importance to these things. I think there's actually I think that's actually an element of pride. I mean, we often think of pride as, thinking we're better than other people, or that we know better, or being self-righteous. But there's also an element of pride in just saying that, well, I don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't care what, I don't give a whatever. And so that is an element of pride. I did a couple of things I noticed I happened to be watching a show the other night. It's on Netflix, and it's one of these kind of crazy shows, I think, about monsters taking over the world, but it's done in a kind of a sophisticated way. It just came out like last year, and it begins with this family riding in a car, and then you can see like the parents are kind of like, look like they're kind of middle upper class people and well educated, and the two teenage children are in the back, and so they're riding in the car, and it seems like an interesting dialogue, kind of actual, about issues and what's going on in their lives, and then they get to his home, and the first trigger, first red flag that comes across is, I guess he didn't have such a good childhood, but they're coming back for his father's funeral, and they come back, and it's just like this disrespect that he has for his father. It's even though he may have suffered, even though his father is dead, rather than being kind of just suffering and sullen, he's actually really pretty disrespectful, and that comes up. Then his mother comes back, and he's like just blatantly disrespectful for her. I mean, he's just like in her face disrespectful, So that's I start wondering, well, what about this show? I don't know if that's, I really agree with all this. And then I think the final draw for me was, after they have to go, they're having a reception and they have to go get some food for it. And then an incident takes place. And then he tells them that they have to move from, they're in the States and like up in Maine, but they have to move from Osaka to Oslo. And she's unhappy about that. And here comes the F-bomb, the repeated F-bomb, and so I'm just saying, wow, well, why should that disturb me? It just kind of made me a reflection on language. It made me make a reflection on language. Well, why here all of a sudden we got the F-bomb coming out, and they're just saying that as if, as if whatever, like what the F. But so, and I just thinking, well, why is that offensive? And I thought, really, they are kind of showing a disrespect for language. They're showing a disrespect for others. They're not being respectful in that way. I mean, that's not being respectful. That's, you're basically saying, I don't care what you think if I say this word. I don't give a, whatever if I act this way or say this or do this. And I thought, that's just not right. I think I'm wrong. I think that's wrong. And I don't think we have to be judgmental about that or judgmental about individuals. This is a show, but we can withhold judgment. But still, just to say that it's okay to use a language like that, or it's okay to go around acting like, I don't care what people think about me, or I don't care the way I look. I don't care what, I don't care what about my language. I don't think that's really healthy. I think that's actually kind of a sign of pride, and I think it's really, being concerned about other people, being delicate with other people. I think that's actually a sign of humility. And I think that that's something important. So it goes back to us, respecting other people, respecting our English language, respecting our environment. I'm saying our home, our space, to keep it clean and tidy, respecting, having respect for these things is actually a sign of humility. And it's a sign of, us being concerned about our spiritual life and our relationship with God and our relationship with others, because respect is a part of relationship. And to have respect for other people, have respect for God, that's part of our relationship. So that is, I think that's pretty essential. And so also I was just thinking, it reminded me of I go out, some of you know, I go out on Tuesday evenings to a wonderful place here along the coast. It's called the Lord's Land. It goes back to it was founded back in the 70s as kind of a hippie Christian commune. And today it's run by an organization called YWAM, Youth with a Mission. And so it's beautiful to see about 30 young people under the age of 30 that are really there, devoted to the Lord and wanting to learn more about the Lord and the faith, and then also wanting, they go out on mission trips as well around the world. But there's one really wonderful young man who often has a smile. Always see him with a smile there, and a wonderful man, Nathaniel, there, and he has this wonderful smile and is very engaging. And when he talks to me, he'll always say, "Sir." You'll say, "Sir," and well, at least the first couple of phrases. And maybe it's kind of old school, but I kind of appreciate that. I kind of appreciate that, hey, this is somebody that wants to make that respect is important, to respect. I'm maybe 20 years older or 25 years older than him, but to say, "Sir," I just kind of think, well, wow, there's someone that respect is important. And that's, and he has a kind of a nice way of doing that. And likewise, when I'm at these kinds of gatherings, if there's another pastor there, I always try to address them as Pastor, Pastor Jim, or Pastor Chris, or Pastor this, Pastor that, or Rabbi Margaret. I always try to address them first by their title, because I think I'm trying to show respect for them and respect for the church that they belong to. And so that's, but so I'm getting back to having respect for our lives, having respect for who we are, having respect for our health, having respect for our environment, having respect for others. that's saying that we matter, that it matters to us who we are, what we're about. And I think that there's a lot to be said for that. And so I think that's really actually a sign of humility. That's a sign of humility on our parts. And so getting back to, I think when we do these activities, when we conduct these activities, we can say, well, no, this is important that I do these small things in my life because I am reverencing God by doing it. It's a way of reverencing God, is saying, well, hey, here I am. I'm washing the dishes, or I'm sweeping the floor, or I'm tidying up, or whatever, vacuuming or dusting, or I'm saying, hey, I'm reverencing God because I'm respecting my environment, because He made me in His image and likeness, and so I should keep my own home here clean and neat. And so that's part of, that's in itself, it's a good thing. So it's not something that we should just say, oh, well, I have to get this done and get this out of the way so I can do other things. Of course, there's a desire for us to have moments of rest and recreation and prayer and times, and it can't just be all activity and all things that are going on like that. But I think that helps us when we say, well, no, this actually in itself has a value in itself, and that I am honoring God by doing this, and that it's not just something that I have to get through. I think that can change our attitude to the way that we do it. And I think it can support us and help us. And so, we're in the car and we're driving. Well, maybe that's an occasion as well to, when we get in the car, to pray for everybody that's on the roads and pray that they have a safe journey to wherever they're going, and trying ourselves to be a delicate driver and conscientious, and not to upset people, but to be a conscientious driver, and not get upset if somebody is tearing down the road or cutting people off. But we say, well, hey, we don't know about them. So, these things, I think that's a sign of humility on our part. And so I think that's something that it's good in our lives to develop this. And so that's what I'm trying to bring out here about, that the limited things of this world will never give us total satisfaction. It's not the limited things. It's not the created things. They're used in their proper, they're given their proper value when they lead us to God, when they do help us to come closer to God, and things, when they're used in their proper sense, should ultimately lead us to God. But I go on to say that it is in tasting Him that we desire more, and it is by loving Him that He draws us out of us the capacity to love Him even more. Thus, we are able to receive more abundantly His love. In turn, this gives us the desire to experience ever more His love. It is in giving that we receive, and it is dying that we are born to eternal life. For Christ has died, Christ has risen, Christ will come again. So it's having that experience of Him wants us to have more of Him, and it's a beautiful desire. It's a beautiful effort to the never-ending being drawn out of ourselves and being drawn into God, and it just makes us to have more and more of this goodness that we're experiencing, and that we can fill our lives with. And so again, it's never something, I think, when it is really God there, when it is really the Holy Spirit there, we never tire of it. I mean, maybe some people can get tired of I don't know, rituals or things like that, or prayers or things like that. But having the true experience of God and the Spirit, I think, is something that is just puts us at rest and puts us at peace and gives us joy. And that's something that we never really tire of, or we never have enough. And so yeah, that's what basically I had for today to present to you. So we can move into the second part of our where we have our discussion. And so Bob will turn off the recording part. This first part is recordings, and it's uploaded on YouTube. But the second part, this part will be just not recorded. So